You know, it's funny, misinformation used to feel, I don't know, almost quaint. A few years ago, you could spot a fake story just by looking at the blurry photo or, the misspelled headline.
Right, the clumsy grammar is almost a giveaway.
Exactly. But what we're facing now is something else entirely. It's no longer just sloppy errors. We're talking about organized, systematic, high-fidelity deception.
We really are.
These are true disinformation campaigns that are now so sophisticated and so scalable that they are capable of disrupting major elections and even challenging the governance of entire countries.
And that fundamental shift right there is what defines the mission of this deep dive. We have moved decisively past that age of, as you said, clumsy propaganda. We are now deep in an era where artificial intelligence has become the defining dual-edged sword of information warfare.
A dual-edged sword. I like that framing.
Because on one side, AI offers these incredible, almost miraculous tools for defense, for detection, for fact-checking. But on the other, it accelerates these threats with a speed and a scale that, frankly, human analysts just cannot match.
Right.
So we need to analyze exactly how this transformation is happening, what the real costs are, and what the global community from, top-level intelligence agencies all the way down to corporate security firms is doing to fight back.
And the core problem, as the researcher Jen Shin put it so well, it's really about access and quality, isn't it?
It is.
AI tools have made it just incredibly easy for anyone, literally anyone with an internet connection, to mass-produce fake images, synthetic voices, these hyper-realistic news reports.
They're almost impossible to distinguish from the real thing.
Exactly. And that high-quality deception, generated cheaply, instantly, and on a massive scale, that is the crisis.
It is the crisis. It's a crisis where algorithms are not just optimizing what ads you see anymore. They are being actively weaponized by those with malicious intent. The whole focus of the attack has shifted, and we really need to understand the financial implications of that shift. Because the costs, they're already staggering. We're talking tens of billions of dollars.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with the sheer velocity of this threat. Because if you were wondering whether bad actors have adopted generative AI, the data is, well, it's a definitive yes. And they're moving much faster than anyone imagined.
It's an exponential curve. The adoption rate by criminals has, frankly, stunned analysts. Generative AI isn't just transforming marketing and coding, it is completely transforming the cyber threat landscape.
So what do the numbers say?
Well, a recent report revealed that a staggering 75% of security professionals witnessed an increase in cyber attacks in 2023.
75%.
In 1 year.
In a single year. That's a massive rise in sheer volume. But here's the really critical point. 85% of those professionals attributed that surge directly to bad actors leveraging generative AI. Wow. So it's not a correlation. They're saying it's the cause.
It's the cause. This isn't some theoretical future risk. This is real-time deployment driving a strategic uptick in breaches and malicious activity right now, today.
It feels like a strategic shift away from those, manual, time-consuming attack methods of the past.
It is. Cybercriminals are now using algorithms to outsmart traditional defenses, both human and technological. The time, the expertise, the resources required to launch a sophisticated attack have just dropped dramatically.
It's democratizing high-level cybercrime.
That's the perfect way to put it. And we aren't just talking about one type of attack either. The threat spectrum is wide, it's comprehensive, because AI can enhance literally every single stage of what we call the cyber kill chain.
Okay, so break that down. What does that actually look like?
It looks like sophisticated social engineering, where personalized phishing messages are generated in milliseconds, tailored to you specifically. It looks like automated malware creation and refinement.
So they're building better viruses faster.
Much faster. Then you have deepfakes for deception, which we'll get into. Brute force attacks against passwords that are now optimized for incredible speed. Cyber espionage campaigns that can synthesize vast amounts of stolen data instantly.
And what about things like smart devices, the Internet of Things?
That too. Automation that exploits vulnerabilities in IoT devices, and of course the creation of devastating ransomware operations that now demand hyper-specific customized ransoms based on what the AI assesses the victim can pay.
And this ties right back to the issue of mass disinformation. Generative AI has ushered in what people are now calling computational propaganda.
It's a powerful term, and it's accurate. This is where the creation and mass dissemination of propaganda, the fake news, the doctored videos, all of it are automated.
The content factory for lies.
It's a factory that never sleeps. That automation allows for a constant systemic flow of misleading content onto all the major social media and news platforms. And the goal of computational propaganda isn't just to misinform you.
No, to manipulate.
It's to manipulate public opinion and influence critical events, especially elections, by deliberately disguising the real sources of the information and hiding the propagandist's true identity or agenda. It creates this state of perpetual low-grade information war.
This brings us directly to deepfakes, which they really are the new frontier of high-stakes fraud. They've moved out of that niche, expensive special effects tech, and into the mainstream criminal toolkit.
And they're targeting corporate assets. Deepfake tech now plays a central role in high-stakes deception, primarily going after corporate leaders and financial institutions with, frankly, eerie precision.
What are the stats on that?
We have figures indicating that 61% of organizations reported an increase in deepfake attacks in 2023. And the projections for 2024 suggest another increase of 50 to 60% on top of that.
That's an explosion.
It is. And you have to imagine what this feels like from the inside.
Yeah.
Imagine your CEO appearing in a video conference, giving instructions they never actually authorized. Or a CFO getting a voice message approving a huge wire transfer that sounds perfectly legitimate.
It fundamentally erodes trust across entire supply chains, financial systems, everywhere.
Exactly.
And when we try to quantify the financial toll this is taking, we're talking about figures that should make every single boardroom pay very close attention.
They absolutely should. Deloitte has projected that generative AI will increase losses from deepfakes and related attacks by 32%.
Okay.
Reaching a colossal $40 billion annually by 2027.
40 billion with a B?
With a B. $40 billion a year is not just a rounding error. That single number should be the driving force behind policy and security decisions worldwide.
And that's a projection. What are we seeing right now?
We're already seeing the acceleration. The FBI's 2023 Internet Crime Report revealed that reported impersonation scams alone, which of course include these deepfake-enabled attacks, cost U.S. victims $12.5 billion in just 1 year.
$12.5 billion already.
Already. So this isn't just about a technical breach in a firewall anymore. It's about strategic financial manipulation, enabled by the speed and the scalability that only AI can provide.
What's truly terrifying about these figures isn't just the dollar amount, though. It's the pivot in criminal methodology. We are seeing this decisive shift away from technical hacking, trying to break through a firewall, to exploiting human trust through social engineering.
Yes.
The human element, amplified by AI's ability to generate realistic simulation, is now consistently the weakest link in the chain.
That's the core insight here. It really is. AI enables a whole new class of fraud that is designed specifically to outpace human detection and exploit the inherent trust that's woven into our financial and organizational systems.
So the threat isn't technical penetration anymore.
No. It's the exploitation of human cognitive bias via simulated authority. The attacker is no longer a coder in a dark room. They are a voice on the phone, a face on a screen that you instinctively trust because of their perceived role in your organization.
And we have some incredibly stark, detailed examples of just how devastating this trust exploitation can be. Let's start with the case of that European energy firm.
Right. In that situation, cybercriminals used AI-powered deepfake technology to perfectly impersonate a high-ranking executive. And they did it using a highly convincing synthetic voice.
So no video, just audio.
Just audio. They didn't need to hack the company's network or crack their encryption. They simply called an unsuspecting employee in the finance department and, directed them to transfer approximately $240,000 into a fraudulent third-party account.
And the employee just did it.
They did. The attack was surgical, the precision was the voice matching the authority figure, and the devastating effect was the exploitation of a clear, internal human procedure that relied on that trust.
That was a strong proof of concept. $250,000 gone, just like that. But the second example, that one truly demonstrates the systemic risk and the sheer scale of this vulnerability.
This is the case that should serve as a wake-up call for every C-suite executive out there. In another documented incident, an AI-generated deepfake was used to impersonate company leadership.
Again, a voice, a video.
We believe it was both, a combination, and it successfully convinced not just one, but multiple employees across different departments to authorize and execute the transfer of a stunning $26 million to scammers.
$26 million. Moved because of a fake video chat.
Yeah.
It is genuinely hard to wrap your head around that figure being moved because of a digital ghost.
It is.
What were the specific failure points there? How did they let such a massive transfer go through?
The failure wasn't technological, it was procedural and cognitive. That's the key. The human employees likely reacted to the urgency in the request and the perceived authority of the leader's voice and face.
So all the traditional cybersecurity measures.
It's completely irrelevant. Your firewalls, your network monitoring, even your basic antivirus software. None of it matters because the attack bypasses the technical layer entirely. It targets the internal human procedures for large fund transfers.
It's an attack on process.
An attack on process and psychology. The attackers exploited the natural human inclination to obey high-ranking authority, especially when the request is framed as urgent or sensitive or secret.
And the barrier to entry for the criminals is it's shockingly low. I read that you can create a hyper-realistic fake voice from just 15 seconds of publicly recorded speech.
That's correct. 15 seconds?
So why spend months trying to crack highly secure encryption when you can do that? The minimal effort needed for massive impact that seems to define this new threat era.
It does. And this necessitates a fundamental change in our defense strategy. We have to pivot away from relying solely on technological solutions that are constantly playing catch-up. There's a concept we call the detection obsolescence cycle.
The detection obsolescence cycle, that sounds ominous. It suggests our defense tech simply can't keep pace.
That's exactly what it means. It's a vicious cycle where the tools defenders use to detect malicious AI like digital watermarks or algorithms designed to spot a deepfake artifact. They become obsolete almost immediately. A new technique for generating synthetic media emerges, and it just sails right past the existing detectors. Then, the researchers and engineers spend months developing a patch or a new algorithm. But by the time it's deployed, the attackers have already iterated and found a new manipulation technique.
So we are always one step behind.
Always. This constant lagging is why relying on an app on your phone to tell you if a voice is real is ultimately a failed strategy.
So if the technology is destined to lag, we have to strengthen the human factor. This brings us to what you call trust layer hardening. Can you explain that in sort of practical terms for the listener?
Absolutely. Trust layer hardening is all about prioritizing verifiable, low-tech, multi-factor human procedures over a reliance on technology.
Low-tech, I like the sound of that.
Think of it this way. If you get a text or a voice message from your boss asking for an immediate, urgent wire transfer, the trust layer hardening step is to always stop the primary channel of communication and open a known secondary one.
So if the voice on the phone sounds real, the mandatory procedure isn't to hit send. It's to hang up and call their verified desk line or send a message through the company's internal secure chat system. Using a number or address you already know is legitimate.
Exactly. The human procedure requires confirmation that is out of band from the attack vector. It has to be on a different channel. If a senior executive sends an urgent email, the policy should mandate calling them on their verified cell phone.
It's about creating a speed bump.
It's a critical speed bump. It means having policies that require urgent requests to be delayed until details are confirmed out of band or maybe reviewed with a supervisor. These simple human checks are far more resilient than any algorithm right now because they exploit the attacker's inability to simultaneously control multiple verified communication channels.
This necessary reliance on rigorous human procedure and detailed human analysis, it brings us to a crucial element in commanding this digital battlefield, the role of the digital investigator, specifically in the field of open source intelligence or OSINT.
And OSINT is no longer just a niche intelligence gathering method. It's being formally recognized as a strategic imperative. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the ODNI, has formally named OSINT the INT of first resort.
The INT of first resort. What does that mean?
It means that before you deploy costly, sensitive, or high-risk intelligence assets, so before you send in a spy or activate a multi-billion-dollar satellite, the very first step should be to focus on publicly or commercially available information, PAI as it's called.
In a world just flooded with computational propaganda and deepfakes, what's the formal definition of OSINT today?
The formal definition is intelligence derived exclusively from publicly or commercially available information that addresses specific intelligence priorities, requirements, or information gaps.
So what are we talking about? Social media?
We're talking about everything. Information readily accessible from the internet, social media feeds, yes, but also academic journals, public records, commercial satellite imagery, even blog posts. It's about leveraging the incredible amount of data the world voluntarily puts online every single second.
So why is the ODNI prioritizing this over the traditional the expensive and frankly sexy methods like signals intelligence or human intelligence. What are the unique advantages of going public first?
Well, there are four really compelling advantages, particularly in the context of fast-moving crises. First is just accessibility and cost.
It's cheap.
It's essentially free or very low cost. That makes it the quickest and most cost-effective method of gathering a baseline understanding of any situation. Second is low risk.
Right, because you're not breaking any laws.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because OSINT avoids intrusive or covert collection methods, it minimizes the risk of legal, ethical, or operational blowback for the state. You're just looking at what's already out there for everyone to see.
And the third advantage is timeliness, which has to be critical when disinformation is spreading instantly.
That's where the real power lies. In dynamic, fast-paced environments like the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, tracking troop movements, identifying missile impacts, or verifying claims of atrocities, OSINT provides real-time or near real-time information.
From social media, public reporting,
and commercial satellite imagery. This is absolutely critical for rapid decision-making, which cannot wait for a formal satellite flyover or for a spy to file a report.
And finally, it serves this crucial complementary role, which I guess makes the expensive intelligence methods much more efficient.
Precisely. OSINT provides the foundational 80% baseline context. It gives you the big picture. This comprehensive background then allows the far more costly and resource-intensive intelligence methods like HUMANT or SIGINT to focus only on filling very specific, high-value information gaps.
So you don't ask a spy to confirm troop positions if you could already see them on Google Earth and verify the timestamp from a local social media post.
You got it. It maximizes the efficiency of the entire intelligence community.
Okay, so despite this crucial importance, the U.S. intelligence community faces what's been described as a capacity crisis in OSINT. If it's the INT of first resort, why isn't it structurally sound and fully supported?
The issue really stems from structural hurdles and fragmentation. Unlike other intelligence disciplines, OSINT doesn't have a dedicated standalone agency or a central home.
It's sort of an orphan.
It is. While the CIA runs the Open Source Enterprise, or OSE, as a functional manager, and the Defense Intelligence Agency manages it for the defense side, this arrangement leads to duplication of effort and competing priorities across different agencies. The core problem, however, is the lack of a formalized career pathway.
So the structure is a symptom of a larger problem. They can't effectively grow and retain the necessary talent.
That is the crisis. There is currently no formal government-wide OSINT career track for employees and contractors. The people who are truly excellent at this, the ones who can geolocate a video based on the shadows on the ground, or analyze the metadata of a document, or use AI to sift through billions of social media posts.
These are highly specialized skills.
They are. It's a unique blend of digital forensics, data science, visual analysis, and predictive analytics. But these people are often hired as temporary contractors or just general analysts.
So if they don't have a clear career path, they're going to leave. They'll go to the private sector, or they'll join organizations like Bellingcat, which has famously formalized this kind of investigation with external experts.
That's exactly right. The lack of a formal track means the government struggles to maintain a competitive edge and institutionalize this crucial expertise. Experts are stressing that there's a critical need for sustained, protected investment to avoid these internal agency silos.
Because our strategic competitors aren't waiting around.
They are not. If the U.S. government wants to train the next generation of digital sleuths, it needs this career path. This is the difference between simply possessing public data and being able to turn that data into actionable intelligence.
Which means the solution has to be holistic. We can't just rely on a new piece of tech or organizational reform alone. It has to be everything at once.
It does. Combating AI-driven threats requires merging technological innovation, global collaboration, human expertise, and adaptive intelligence. We need to empower the analysts and employees on the front line, the first line of digital defense, because at the end of the day, they are the target.
Okay, so that means rigorous, specialized training to spot deepfakes and AI-driven deception. What are the specific, actionable warning signs people should be taught to look for? If they're the target, they need a clear checklist.
Training programs have to move beyond just general awareness and provide specific, recognizable red flags that exploit the persistent flaws in AI generation.
Like what?
Things like inconsistencies in audio or video quality, mismatched lip movements and voice synchronization, unnatural gestures or robotic facial expressions, what we call the uncanny valley effect.
The little glitches.
The glitches. But critically, employees also need to be trained to look for contextual clues that exploit our own cognitive biases. Things like an unusual word choice or behavior from a trusted source, or instructions that violate standard procedures, like a sudden demand for secrecy or extreme urgency.
So it's not just about seeing if the deepfake is technically perfect, but looking for the seams and edges where the deception breaks down, both technically and behaviorally.
Exactly. And strengthening verification procedures is the natural, low-tech follow-up to that training.
Which gets back to trust layer hardening.
Absolutely. Policies must mandate those extra steps, especially for urgent, high-value requests. These steps involve low-tech, high-impact actions, like calling the sender directly using a known, pre-verified phone number, or conducting multi-person sign-offs for large transactions.
Enforcing that speed bump we talked about.
Yes. Enforce procedures like delaying any urgent request until confirmation is secured or reviewing suspicious instructions with a supervisor. The goal is always to prevent attackers from exploiting the human tendency toward rushed responses or simple compliance with authority.
Now, we've talked about what individual organizations can do, but cybercrime and computational propaganda are transnational problems. They demand a concerted global response, which brings us to law enforcement adaptation.
And that technological imbalance is a massive hurdle for traditional law enforcement. Cybercriminals are using AI to amplify their capabilities, far outpacing existing investigative frameworks and, frankly, police budgets.
So what's the response?
To counter this, agencies worldwide are racing to develop cutting-edge technologies and create specialized investigative units staffed with experts in machine learning and forensic analytics. This demand is leading to the full development of specialized cybercrime units in major agencies globally, all focused on tracking this new wave of AI-enabled fraud.
And I imagine Interpol is leading the charge on the coordination front, which is crucial because data has no borders.
Interpol is a prime example of a united global response. Their global cybercrime strategy unites agencies across member countries to coordinate these cross-border investigations. And crucially, they run something called the Cyber Fusion Center.
What does that do?
It gathers, analyzes, and synthesizes information on criminal activities in cyberspace, and then shares that actionable intelligence immediately with member countries. Since 2017, the center has issued over 800 reports to police in more than 150 countries.
Wow.
And these reports cover everything from specific malware strains to global social engineering fraud rings. This international information sharing is paramount because no single nation can fight these borderless digital threats alone.
Beyond law enforcement, the private sector is creating its own robust ecosystem of digital defense tools. It feels like technological preparedness is now a massive market in its own right.
It is. Companies are aggressively investing in their own AI-powered threat detection systems and layered defenses. This includes implementing robust protocols like multi-factor authentication and what's called a zero-trust architecture, which basically verifies every single access request.
But the market has also responded specifically to the deepfake threat with these dedicated behavioral awareness training platforms.
It has.
We're seeing a rise in platforms like KnowBe4, Hoxhunt, and Breacher.ai. How are these tools trying to bridge that gap between human error and sophisticated AI-driven fraud?
Their focus is on realistic adaptive simulation. A key innovation, particularly from providers like Adaptive Security, is the use of what they call conversational red teaming agents.
Conversational red teaming agents. What does that mean?
It means these agents simulate highly realistic multi-channel deepfake phishing attempts, not just email, but across voice calls, what we call vishing SMS text messages, and even simulated video calls.
So instead of a static, generic fake email that says, click here, the simulation is personalized and interactive.
It's highly personalized, and it uses the same techniques an attacker would. These simulations often leverage open-source data that an attacker could easily find, like executive interviews on YouTube, public job listings, or company announcements, to craft a deepfake scenario that is extremely accurate and context-aware.
So it strengthens the human firewall where it's weakest.
Exactly. By forcing employees to practice the required verification steps in a safe but realistic environment, it's continuous behavioral conditioning against AI manipulation. And these platforms are moving beyond just email to prepare employees for vishing, voice phishing, and text message scams, recognizing that the attack surface is much broader than just the corporate inbox.
This brings us full circle, really, to the great paradox of this information war. AI is the primary weapon, but it must also be our most powerful shield. Let's start with the current limits of malicious AI, because despite all the hype, the evidence suggests Gen AI isn't yet building some autonomous Skynet-like threat apparatus.
That's a crucial distinction that often gets lost in the sensationalism. Our current assessment is that Gen AI systems generally lack the specific capabilities and deep training necessary to independently create operational malware from scratch.
They can't just dream up a new virus on their own.
Not yet. They don't possess the tactical foresight or the strategic decision-making ability required for launching sophisticated multi-stage attacks.
So cybercriminals aren't outsourcing their entire job to ChatGPT just yet. They're using Gen AI primarily to uplift their existing skills.
That's the perfect term. They're using it to refine existing malware, to generate useful code snippets, and to augment their social engineering, like generating highly persuasive text for spear phishing campaigns that's indistinguishable from human writing.
So it's a co-pilot, not an autonomous agent.
Exactly. And there are consistent blockers to that autonomous malicious adoption. One is the famous issue of AI hallucinations, where the AI confidently provides incorrect technical information. This severely undermines its predictability, which is a huge problem in attack planning, where failure risk is high.
Right.
Gen AI also struggles with complex reasoning about the world as we experience it, limiting its ability to make effective trade-offs in attack strategy.
But if malicious actors are using AI to generate propaganda, the good guys must be using AI to detect and counter it. So let's look at that counteroffensive. Specifically, some of these academic projects building AI agents for high-speed fact-checking and influence.
The Stanford project involving the truth sleuth and trend bender agents is a fascinating blueprint for this next-generation digital sleuthing.
Okay, let's start with Truth Sleuth. What is it?
Truth Sleuth is a fact-checking agent designed specifically to address claims made in dynamic, unstructured media like YouTube videos.
So how does this AI achieve credible fact-checking without, falling victim to the same reliability problems and hallucinations that plague general-purpose chatbots?
It uses a critical technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RG. This is the key technical insight.
RAG.
The agent extracts specific claims from a video transcript, but instead of generating a response from its own general, often biased or inaccurate internal knowledge base, it uses the array approach to check the veracity of those claims against external, reliable, pre-verified sources.
So it's not just thinking on its own. It retrieves information from reliable sources like Wikipedia, Google Search, Google Fact Check, and then uses that retrieved data to generate its report. It's fundamentally anchored in verified information.
Precisely. The array approach prevents the misinformation-fighting AI from hallucinating or generating content based on its own faulty training data. It generates a nuanced, comprehensive report, including labels like partly true, false, and the specific reasoning behind the verdict. They even excluded claims deemed unsure to prevent accidentally spreading dubious information.
That's the factual correction side. But countering misinformation isn't just about stating facts. It's about shifting perspectives, especially in these entrenched online communities. That's the job of the trendbender agent, I take it.
That's right. Trendbender is the sophisticated influencing agent. It takes the report from Truth Sleuth, it takes detailed instructions on tone and persuasive writing, and a curated list of related articles, and uses really rigorous prompt engineering to generate insightful and persuasive comments.
And the goal is to post these in the comment sections.
The goal is to post them to stimulate productive, critical debate. And they found that by including a self-evaluation loop, the agent could autonomously refine and improve its own communication style. It could actually learn which arguments land best with a specific audience.
So did this influence strategy actually work in a real-world deployment? Because the comment sections are often just extreme echo chambers.
It was startlingly effective. The deployment experiment on YouTube showed that trendbenders successfully generated comments that sparked meaningful discussions and debates with real users, even in highly polarized extreme echo chambers.
Where specifically?
Specifically in the so-called manosphere communities. This confirms the potential for AI-driven, subtle interventions to encourage critical thinking and potentially break down those ideological barriers that human moderators often find impenetrable.
That research on influence is powerfully reinforced by this UNSW competition, Capture the Narrative. This sounds like an incredibly effective way to stress test our defenses by showing us exactly how easily we can be manipulated.
It was a really innovative competition. It reimagined the traditional cybersecurity exercise, Capture the Flag, but focused entirely on AI misinformation tactics. They created a simulated social media platform called Legit Social,
Okay.
and they populated it with thousands of AI agents, each with unique political leanings, established social networks, and behavioral tendencies. The participating team's bots were then tasked with infiltrating this network and swaying a simulated political election.
And what were the key findings from running the simulation? Was it effective?
The impact was both measurable and alarming. The teams, using AI-generated content propaganda, fake news, emotional appeals, successfully swung the simulated election outcome by 1.7 percentage points.
1.7%. That's enough to change the winner.
It changed the winner of the race. And this was achieved with limited resources and only a 4-week time frame. It suggests the barrier to entry for influence operations is lower than ever. It requires minimal technical skill, but high tactical insight.
That 1.7% swing is just a stark reminder of the potential for real-world impact. In a tight election, that's the whole ballgame. What tactics proved most effective in achieving that shift?
The teams found that visibility was paramount. Getting content to trend quickly was more important than spending time crafting the perfect, subtle post. And crucially, they found that negativity proved significantly more effective than praise.
Outrage sells.
Outrage sells. Criticism and attacks on opponents drove much higher engagement and spread faster. It was far easier to provoke reactions against candidates than to build stable, slow-burning support for them.
Which leverages what we already know about human attention.
Right.
We're wired to respond to fear and outrage much faster than to positive news.
Exactly. As one team noted, whoever speaks the loudest gets the final say. Furthermore, the bots they created were context-aware and capable of nuanced, continuous conversations, proving they can be indistinguishable from actual humans to a frightening degree. It makes the simulation eerily predictive of real-world influence campaigns.
And because this threat is so systemic and transnational, relying solely on corporate security and intelligence agencies is clearly insufficient. Regulatory frameworks seem necessary to compel the large tech platforms, which are the primary vectors for all this, to mitigate these risks. This leads us directly to the European Union's groundbreaking efforts.
It does. The EU's Digital Services Act, or DSA, is the key piece of legislation here, and it focuses heavily on platform accountability and systemic risk mitigation.
The DSA compels very large online platforms, the VLOPs and search engines, with over 45 million monthly active users in the EU, to conduct these rigorous, independent, systemic risk assessments. This feels like a crucial piece of proactive digital governance.
It is. It forces companies to look internally for their own failure points. And these assessments must explicitly address information integrity and democratic processes. Article 34 of the DSA requires platforms to cover the actual or potential impact of their activities on media freedom, pluralism, and crucially, disinformation.
Even if the disinformation isn't technically illegal content.
Correct. Recital 70 underscores that even though disinformation doesn't constitute illegal content per se, it's often just opinion or distorted fact. It poses a direct existential threat to democratic institutions and public security.
And the threat of massive financial penalties is what gives this act its teeth. It's basically an external budget driver for big tech's digital defense investment.
Precisely. The penalties can reach up to 6% of a company's global revenue. That legally compels them to invest heavily in monitoring and moderating AI-driven threats. The DSA isn't just about content, it's about regulating the infrastructure that enables its dissemination, from algorithmic amplification to ad targeting. It forces responsibility at the level of system design.
Complementing the DSA is the AI Act, or AIA.
Yeah.
How does the AIA approach the problem differently? Is it focused more on the technology itself?
It is. The AIA takes a product safety-oriented approach. It classifies AI systems based on their level of risk, whereas the DSA regulates the platforms where public discussion happens.
I see.
The AIA explicitly prohibits AI practices considered fundamentally dangerous for democratic integrity. This includes prohibitions against things like subliminal manipulative techniques and public sector social scoring that could be used to unfairly target populations.
However, this aggressive regulatory approach has not been without criticism, particularly from the U.S., which tends to champion a less restrictive approach to tech innovation.
That's where you see significant transatlantic friction. U.S. officials have cited the DSA as a far more restrictive approach to online expression, with some feeling it amounts to a form of censorship or an excessive burden on business.
So there's a real tension there.
There is.
Yeah.
The EU prioritizes mitigating systemic democratic risk, even if it restricts some types of expression. Critics argue these rules unfairly target and impose burdensome costs on the U.S. firms that dominate the market.
And we saw this friction play out recently in the debate over Google's AI overviews, which touched directly on this core problem of information dissemination.
Yes, a coalition of European media companies filed a formal complaint under the DSA against Google's AI overviews, which summarize search results.
Because the allegation was twofold, right?
It was. First, that these summaries are traffic killers because they derive information from journalism sites, summarize it, and keep users on Google's platform, starving the original publishers of ad revenue. And second, and crucially for our deep dive, they allege that these AI summaries often disseminate misinformation or biased summaries, undermining the accuracy of information online.
But the counter-argument is that AI summarization is functionally no different from a human doing the same thing, which would generally be considered fair use.
That's the core of the criticism from tech proponents. Critics argue there is no right to traffic. Preventing machines from summarizing efficiently would be like banning a robust search engine entirely. Their view is that if publishers are losing engagement, the solution is to improve their own offerings, not seek regulatory power over platform design.
So what emerges is this multi-layered but fragmented governance regime, constantly negotiating the boundary between protection and progress in the digital space.
Yeah.
We started this deep dive by calling AI a dual-edged sword, and that paradox really defines this entire battlefield. AI is simultaneously the primary weapon being used for computational propaganda and hyper-realistic fraud, and is also the most powerful tool we have for defense, detection, and counter-influence.
And the critical challenges facing our digital sleuths are both organizational and technical. Organizations, especially in government, have to move past this structural fragmentation to ensure sustained, protected investment in OSINT talent. We have to create that career track.
And on the technical side?
Technically, we have to acknowledge that we are in this continuous detection obsolescence cycle. Our detection tools, even sophisticated ones, are constantly lagging behind the manipulation techniques. That requires a strategy rooted not in tech alone, but in human resilience.
It's a battle of persistence, then. It requires a holistic defense model that recognizes that exploiting human trust is now a more valuable criminal enterprise than breaking high-level encryption. The answer isn't just in better code, but in better human procedures.
Indeed. The complexity of this information environment demands we move beyond purely technical solutions and focus heavily on human critical thinking and ethical deployment. And that raises a final, really profound question.
What's that?
If we know that AI can be leveraged to generate highly persuasive, context-aware narratives and successfully shift public opinion, as we saw with that terrifying 1.7 percentage point election swing in the UNSW simulation, it forces us to ask, what are the limits of ethical intervention by AI agents like the Trendbender? How do we ensure that the very AI tools we build for good, the ones designed to encourage critical thinking, don't themselves become the next generation of sophisticated manipulators? The continuous journey of learning and adaptation is our only real defense.